Michigan's about done with their 26 football roster. And we're ready to talk about it with you. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Afternoon. Michigan football. We're live right now talking about Michigan football. And some basketball. And if you're one that it's just been refreshing, constantly, checking the portal, checking it twice, who's coming, what are the experts saying, what's admissions saying, and all that thing, you can just hang out here for a while because we're all checking that. And when something happens, somebody just throws it up and lets you know about it. But as far as Michigan goes, they are... this time last week, there was, to say that there was panic setting in, there was a little bit of, where's Michigan? They've got a lot of guys hitting the portal, heading out, but they don't have a whole lot of guys coming in. And it looked like there was, and it looks, we know that now, but Whittingham and company or systematically, if you were in charge, maybe you would have just done it all at once. We're keeping these guys, we're bringing these guys in all at the same time. And what it appeared, or maybe it just happened this way, is that Whittingham and company were really working hard on the guys that they had on the team that they wanted to keep. And then once they got through that part, then they went through position by position. Maybe again, you'd have just thrown them all in there and started sending stuff out, bringing guys in. However, but it seemed like they had a plan, and it has come together for Whittingham and company. Where we sit right now, where you can put together a pretty good 2 deep. Now you can look and say, well, no, they better get a couple stars here, or they better fill this position, or they'll be in trouble. You're always going to have something that you're going to look at, and we'll take a look at those needs. Is it all set? Is Michigan good to go? Are they done? Is the hay in the barn? We'll look at that. We'll see what you think. Tonight, Michigan basketball, I already see that, there's some West Coast Wolverines that are already here and lining up and sending in some feedback. They'll be watching this game. It'll be a little bit different from there for them. It's going to be different for us because it's a 10:30 tip, and I'll be up late watching that game and then talking about it afterwards. But the big news, it continues to be the transfer portal for a couple more days. Today, there's the transfer portal, I believe, closes Friday, and for a lot of people, they'll say, thank God, it seems like it's been open for a month, but I got news for you. Friday, it's going to seem like it ends, but you can still add on after Friday. It's not like if Michigan gets to Friday and they're sitting there saying, they'd really like to have another linebacker, and they get to Friday and they don't have one. That's not a need to then hit a panic button or jump off a bridge or anything else, because you still can add players. It's just that you can't jump into the transfer portal. I think most people know that, but for the few that don't, and it's okay. This is not like this is something that has gone on every single year, and we all know the dates and we know everything. It's all new to all of us. So anybody that's over there is like, screaming and yelling, saying you don't know the rules or whatever else. Like, I don't know. The rules seem like they change every 5 minutes. So you'll have to give me. You don't have to, but I want to pass. And if I get something wrong when it comes down to this date or this time via the transfer portal. You can hand me that free. Maybe you don't hand out free passes. I don't like to. I'm kind of stingy with my free passes, but so let's get to the roster and what Michigan has been doing. And there's a lot of these guys, and the big news is right up top. Now, we had talked about this. It looked like it was going to happen, and then Michigan added another running back, and they are not going to get Justice Haynes back. He went into the transfer portal, and is it official? He is committed to Georgia Tech. You could argue that Michigan should have spent all of their money, or more money, or just spent, and should have brought Haynes back. Haynes would be, if Haynes was on Michigan. He's not. He's going to Georgia Tech. He would be the best player, the best running back, and arguably the best player on the Michigan offense. So you could make that argument that they should have just gone for broke and spent everything to get Justice Haynes. As the timing went, they were interested and they were hanging in there, but Michigan also, when Haynes got hurt, Marshall showed that he could be a running back one. That whatever Michigan's ceiling is or whatever else, they could get there with Marshall. He proved that. Now, having Haynes and Marshall would be a hell of a 1-2 punch. But then you have Fithian Hyder, who's the number one running back in the country, coming in. And hey, he might be better than Haynes and Marshall. So we don't know. If Michigan didn't have the likes of Hyder coming in, they do. But if they didn't, I would be on the other side of this. I would say Michigan should have gone and outspent and gave Haynes everything they possibly could, and they should have brought him back. But that's not the case. So I'm not on the other side of that. I'm with Hyder and how they did that. So that's just my opinion on that. It happens to line up with Michigan. That's not always the case, but in this case it is, and I'm all right with that. Now, TJ Metcalf is a good football player. I liked him. I wanted him to come back, but he's gone in the transfer portal, and he is headed to Tennessee. So that's a loss in the secondary. Brandon Hillman was a starter for the Michigan defense and the secondary. He is still out there. I think that is a loss as well. I noticed that a lot of Michigan fans weren't really saying bye to Metcalf because they knew he was a pretty good football player. But most people, because Hillman had some real public, what did he have? But he had the unsportsmanlike conduct, when he was down at Nebraska, whatever he was doing, looking over to the bench, telling him to suck it or whatever he was doing. I don't know what he was telling him to do. That's what it looked like. He was telling him to do it. And then, even earlier than that, the Oklahoma game, when he blitzed, Wink sent him, big surprise. Wink sent him on a blitz, and he had Mateer dead to rights, and it was a third down play. It was the biggest play of the game. He sacks him there, huge loss, but it didn't, and Mateer ran, he'd run down to the 5 or something. It was the biggest play of the game, turned the game. So a lot of people remember that from Hillman, remember the crotch grab or whatever it was at Nebraska. And then I don't even remember how many unsportsmanlike conducts. Was it just one or two? But he would go for the big hit, and so then he missed some early in his career. Or last year, he was laying guys out and not getting called for penalties, and people loved him. Oh, this is old school football. This is great. And then this year, it didn't really work out like that, and so people aren't. I think I'll speak for the Michigan fans. They're not sad to see him go. Sanders, who was just a true freshman this year and played well when he was in there, is a loss. You would have liked to have kept him, but he's gone, and he's at Notre Dame. I think the same thing when it comes to Ty Haywood. Michigan's got a good-looking offensive line, and Haywood, I know that he had the recruiting credentials, and Michigan was very high on him. They wanted to keep him in, but If you can't promise him a spot, or if he didn't think that he was going to be a starter, I don't know. Is that what he thought down at Alabama? Maybe the grass is just greener. Maybe some additional green for Haywood, and he's gone. That seems like it's a pretty big loss. So I don't know, big loss, Metcalf, big loss, or a loss for Hillman. Sanders, a loss. Haywood, I'll put, is a big loss. Jaden Hood was a great representative for Michigan. I liked him. He didn't play much. Wish him well. He was a fun guy, and you do nothing but pat him on the back and say good luck. Jordan Young, good football player, and made some plays this year. Looked like he has a promising future, and he returned to the fold. Bryson Cusdahl is in the transfer portal. I've seen his name linked to a bunch of different teams, but there's a possibility that he could end up coming back. That's one to, it's not completely over. I at least see his name being talked about as possibly coming back. A kicker named Sunderland. I was looking to see if he was even on my list. No. Keene is going to Arizona State to play for Dillingham. It'll be interesting to follow the developments of Mikey Keene, who was going to be was quarterback too. And heck, last year at this time, you're thinking Mikey Keene's going to. I don't know if he was committed at this time last year, but you were thinking that Mikey Keene was going to start for Michigan. He certainly had a chance. Not everybody was like, "Oh yeah, it's Bryce Underwood for sure." Mikey Keene, maybe, especially for the first road game against Oklahoma. But we all know how that worked. He ended up hurting his shoulder, lifting weights, was never able to get out there, and didn't contribute at all. Sears and Roebuck, Ben Roebuck, came up, Ohio kid, ends up going to Kalamazoo in Western Michigan. Good luck. Devon Baxter, it's too bad. He's an East Coast guy and a lot of promise. Just never materialized for Michigan. Never saw very much of him. He went to the portal. He's at Virginia. Zeke Berry, starter, corner for Michigan, hit the portal. Some were saying good riddance, and then he's coming back and saying, "Oh, I like that." Jaden Davis is in the portal. We've been through his career left and right. It was exciting when he committed, and then it kind of had a downward trajectory. Nice kid, just didn't work out. Elijah Dotson. I feel like this is a loss. Now, they're all losses, so it was a big loss, somewhat big loss, somewhat a big loss. From Dotson. I just thought he had a promising future. He's another guy when you talk to, you like him, you root for him. Good head on his shoulders, good personality, that kind of stuff. Jake Garnera, that was going to be a big loss. He hit the portal, but he's coming back, so that's nice. And you see him starting on the Michigan offensive line. Connor Jones, who came in, never was able to find a path to getting any playing time. He went in the portal and is going down to Georgia State. Jaden Mangham, it was more fun to root for Mangham because he came from Michigan State and he was one of the Spartans' better players. And so it was a nice rivalry thing to say, stick it in your ear, Sparty, that kind of thing. But he never really did anything for Michigan. Now he's off to Purdue. Speaking of the Spartans, they got the drop master, Freddie Moore. I don't know. He dropped a few balls. Fred Moore, Michigan needed a wide receiver or two to step up last year before ultimately Andrew Marsh ended up jumping in and filling that void. McCulley was there, but Moore was pegged by a lot, man. He could have a big year, and then he just couldn't get out on the field, and he ended up bolting mid-season. Samaj Morgan, this time last year, my favorite Wolverine. Samaj Morgan, ended up getting the yips, couldn't hang on to the ball, made punt returning a ridiculous adventure, and it cost partly J.B. Brown his job, and a lot of criticism going Sharon Moore's way, as Sharon Moore kept him out there for some reason. But Sharon Moore, it's easy to criticize him now, but that was one I was criticizing before we found out about his extracurriculars. Jasper Parker got passed up by Cusdahl. And so I think Parker saw the writing on the wall. Brady Prieskorn was the highest rated tight end that Michigan had, but then he was doing a backflip last year in the pregame against Ohio State and hurt his knee. And so he was never able to get out on the field. And so he's gone. I'd say a big loss. It feels like it, but what would have happened if he didn't get hurt in the pregame doing a backflip? I don't know. Sometimes you do a backflip like Bryce Underwood up at Michigan State, and all the Michigan fans are like, yeah, I love it. You say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing backflips and everything because you can get hurt. No, let them kids be kids. Prieskorn, he was a kid being a kid, and now he's down at Ole Miss. Andrew Sprague, Big Sprague. Now, Big Sprague, Michigan's right tackle, a fixture over there, and he left, and people are like, they didn't need Big Sprague. He didn't have a very good year. Now he's back, and they're like, oh, it's Big Sprague. He was a big loss, and now he's a big returner. Caden Strayhorn never worked here, and he didn't see a path to playing time. He committed to Alabama. Haywood and Strayhorn, will those guys be starting for the Crimson Tide anytime soon? The biggest loss that Michigan suffered via the transfer portal was Cole Sullivan. He is headed to Oklahoma. Fit, scheme fit, whatever else want to do, bug out. It's a big loss for Michigan, losing Cole Sullivan. He's gone. Davis Warren will always have the 25 Ohio State win in his back pocket. He beat the Buckeyes as the starting quarterback. And I'll say it. We all root for Davis Warren. So good luck to him. And, he's one of those guys. Is Michigan ever going to run into Stanford? I'm going to say no. So you can go ahead and root for Warren. Now let's get to the additions. Now, these are the guys that are coming in. You could say, how many guys were that? It seemed like a lot, and some of them are coming back. You're right. If you're counting at home. I did not. I was going to go through and count them, but maybe one of you did. Let's go through the additions. There's a long snapper. There's a punter. There's a kicker. Here's a running back who was one of the top running backs just a couple years ago. Did not play very much at all last year, just took a couple snaps and then was hurt. And so at Oklahoma, and now he's going to be fighting for running back 2. I think Jordan Marshall, I will pencil him in as the starter. If you had to, stick a pencil up to my face and say you're going to poke me in the nose or something, I would say I'll pick Hyder, sight unseen, number 1 running back coming out of high school. I don't know about Tatum and the injury, but, Tatum could easily be number 2. Speaking of injuries, JHD, this is I don't want to say boom or bust, but that's the way I feel about it. Utah edge, top edge in the transfer portal, according to On3, number 4 player in the portal overall. On3 rivals John Henry Daly from Utah, coming off an Achilles, and he gets back out on the field, and if he's the player he was last year, he's going to be great. But the Achilles, so it's just something to monitor. I'm not over here. Speaking of something to monitor, let's stay in the Beehive State, Utah, a defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, Jonah Liea. Now, Liea is in, but you got to at least put an asterisk next to him. There's is it admissions? Is somebody working the phones to get him back? I don't know. Maybe one of those things. It's a situation where if you have him in your on your wherever you keep your two deep or everything, hopefully you're writing these in pencil because you may need to erase him. I don't know if he's gone for sure, but he could be. Now, I went on and on about Jaime Farranch or whatever his name was going to be, but it's Jamie French who comes in and was a very highly touted wide receiver heading in last year to Texas. Didn't play down there for the Longhorns, but now, he resurfaces with Michigan. A lot of promise there. He's one that I think everybody's excited to take a look at. What kind of is he going to be the guy with the big time credentials coming out of high school, or is he going to be the guy that couldn't hit the field last year? There you go. A lot to look for with French. The quarterback position, since we last talked, has really been beefed up. They've added two. The first one from Colorado State, guy who started a bunch of games for the Rams, Brandon Fowler. Nicolasi, BFN, you'd think would be vying for the number 2 spot behind Bryce Underwood, but he will vie with somebody else, be competing there, which we will get to shortly. JJ Buchanan, Utah. People that said, wow, Michigan's going to lose a half dozen players, but they'll probably get a half dozen from Utah. That was spot on. That description. And a tight end / wide receiver in Buchanan. He's pretty good because the Utah fans didn't want to see him go. They were dogging him and dogging Whittingham a little bit for taking Buchanan. So I'm expecting him to be a pretty good player. A depth piece from Nebraska, HKT, Houston K. Torres. I haven't looked into the pronunciation there. I will. Houston K. Torres. Here's a very interesting player. Very interesting. LSU quarterback Colin Hurley. He was a big-time prospect, was injured in a car accident. He's still very young. He comes in. You would think that he could be the quarterback too, or it could be they've got nice depth here, at least as we take a look at it in mid-January. Underwood, year 2. Can he play twice as good as he did last year? That's what I'm expecting. And then you're cooking. But behind him, you got a guy who's played an awful lot and has a lot of experience in BFN. And then you have a pretty highly touted youngster in Hurley who's coming back, and there's a lot of unknown about just how good he's going to be. Hasn't played. He's young, but was highly thought of before the injury and all of that. So I'd say exciting. Memphis safety Chris Bracey went into the portal. He has just emerged out of the portal as a Wolverine. I would say depth there at safety, but you never know. Some of these guys lately back to Utah. Wow. Back to Utah and Snowden. Snowden and Utah. That's where it goes down. That's you get the name Snowden and you're in Utah. But Smith Snowden, a DB, I feel like he's going to take one of those corner spots. I think it's going to be Shug Hill, Jair Hill, and SS Smith Snowden as a cornerback 2 Was Zeke Berry as a slot guy? You want to make a case now? Snowden stuff. Okay, all right. I'm just telling you what I think right now. I could be wrong. A Butler wide receiver, Braden Alford. Actually, I'm not familiar with his game and what we're looking at there. Can't have enough wide receivers. Who knows? Butler. I did not know that Butler had a football program. I know they're basketball, but I did not know that they had a football program. Full admission there. And then back to Utah, this time for another linebacker in Max Alford. Alford, the linebacker, and I don't think Michigan's completely done there. Oh yeah, no, there you go. Got a couple. We got one underneath Alford and Trey Pierce's brother, Christian Pierce. Keep it in the family. Trey Pierce on the defensive line. Christian Pierce comes from Western Illinois to join his brother on the defensive side of the ball. And there you go. Those are the guys that are coming in. That's a lot of players to get familiar with. Who are the stars and those kind of things? The Utah, the Snowden, put that list back up there. Guys that you think that are going to be starters for sure. Well, the Michigan's pretty thin, which we're going to get to the roster. Alford, where he is in the mix, you probably have to put him, I would say tentatively right now as a starter, but Snowden, I just talked about him. I think he's going to be a starter. Buchanan's going to get time. French is in there. We don't know about Liea. Keep an eye on that. JHD, it could be the star of the Michigan defense if he is 100% healthy and good to go. And then there's your special teams. Special teams, which Kerry Coombs already took over in the bowl game, and special teams looked a lot better. And they hit the third unit, offense, defense, and special teams pretty hard right off the bat with, there you go, your long snappers, your punter, and your kicker. Names that we're not going to sit around. We'll look at their numbers, I'm sure, at some point. But they're not leading with, let's get to the, long snapper. Let's get to the specialists, that kind of thing. But very important, as we all know. Now, out of all of those, with Rolder heading and going pro, Barham going pro, who else was that? Houseman doing whatever he's going to do, not coming back playing football anymore. Sullivan hitting the portal, a lot of playing time at linebacker. Chase Taylor and the NOB are sitting there. Both of those guys look like they could be players, and we might see them sooner than later, right off the bat. You're ready. You would like, here's the thing. You'd like to have bona fide, experienced players and even stars, of course, that you would say, yeah, you're going to just put those guys in there. But there's going to be some spots, linebacker might be one of them, where you're going to depend on guys that are young, that have not had a lot of playing time, but they're going to have to step up. And linebacker is one of those. Now, I don't think, again, it's freak-out time just yet. I don't know if it's going to be freak-out time considering everything that they've been able to bring in. But as far as needs go, I'm still looking at the defensive line, and I'm still looking at linebacker. That's what I'm looking at. Before we talk basketball, let's do what we always do, and that is, let's go to the phones. Oh, wait, that's in radio. They do. No, we're going to the feedback. Here's Smash. He'll be up late. Oh, no, he won't. He lives out in California. So he'll just be taking it all in tonight. Carlsbad, California. Well, I can tell you as I look out, the Peach Mountain Studios. It looks like a blizzard coming out right now. I don't know. That's might be an exaggeration. There's a nice windy snow. I don't know. That's nothing nice about snow, being windy snow. It's happening, but it's January in Michigan, so that happens. Yeah, Utah Wolverines, it's happening. It is happening. Rip was excited about the NRS was excited about those long snappers. Can't have enough, good long snappers. We're talking about California burritos. Chase. All of the doomers in the chat last week freaking out about the portal. Utah Wolverines prevail. I think that I've been over on the two sides. One where you just sit back and you're like, oh, it's all great. It's Michigan. Or the other side, you're like, it's never gonna. Oh my God. It's always doom. I flipped a little bit. I wasn't quite always a, scream and yell or doom. Everything's going on. I try to just take the information in and wherever it leads me. If there's something to be excited about, then yeah, I'm going to be excited. If not, I'm not basing it on, I love Michigan, so I'm just going to try to look at it through maize and blue glasses. I'm trying to look at it objectively, and that's different than most people. Most people, it's you don't care if you're biased. So if you don't care if you're biased, and in fact you proclaim that, oh yeah, it's whenever I hear people say, I love Michigan, and what do you think? I'm always going to pick Michigan. Okay, well then I don't know how much I really want to hear. I'm not from fans. I'm just talking about people that are like covering the team. It's hard if you're trying not to be objective. But so what was my point on that? Oh, my point is that taking a look at what we see here, I've noticed over the last I've noticed just as I've gotten older that it's as much fun or even more fun when the games are over to talk about the team. There's no wins or losses. I mean, you can say in recruiting, you have a win or loss, and the portal, there's wins or losses, fine, but you're not getting hurt by the ultimate loss, which is a loss out on the field. So it's like you're undefeated in the off season. It seemed like it used to be more just baseball. People would be like, they would, be, poetic about it, romantic. Oh, everybody has a shot in spring training, that kind of stuff. But it is a lot more. It's what can get you through the day, what makes you sleep well, what makes you feel good in the off season. Is it feeling like, the things are going to go to hell in a handbasket guaranteed, or they should be firing people, the athletic director is a clown, whatever. Some people like that kind of stuff. But the other part is just like, oh, hey, this is brand new. This could be awesome. And why not feel good until you don't have to? Out of all these transfer portal additions and everything else, Underwood was the most important one. And if Underwood can play twice as well as he did last year, Michigan can be in the playoffs. You need all those other guys to help him, and it's going to go a long way in how he plays. But no, I'm sitting around here saying that's what I feel like. Woo! If you really want to know where to go, you go to Costco. They got 24 packs of sugarcane, Cokes. We couldn't have those. We couldn't have 24 around here. I'd be in trouble. Couple. Going to be another great week of football watching. Michigan Go Blue 1324. Do I like watching games on BTN? Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind watching the games on BTN. I'm trying to think if there's any announcers that I like. Rafferty, and not that he's on BTN. I don't mind any of the color analysts on BTN. Robbie Hummel, I like. So, yeah, I don't mind it. I think they do a good job. As much as and I don't know how anybody is going to take up for streaming. Like, oh, I like streaming. I like just paying another $7 a month, and then I like forgetting about it, and then paying $200 for the year, and then coming back and being like, oh, I've stayed subscribing. Nobody's going to say that, but I got Big Ten Plus. I remember the first time was the preseason, and it was the first game I was watching. It didn't have any announcers. They had like a camera over in the corner, and I sent him an email like, "You guys are a joke. I just spent $7.99 or $12.99, I think, for this is the worst product I've ever seen." And everything else. Well, the next game, they had the announcers, and it was back, and they do a pretty nice job of keeping the games over there where you can watch them. I'm talking about Big Ten Plus now, so yeah. But I don't mind the games on BTN. The one thing I don't like about the streaming Peacock and Big Ten Plus is that, and maybe it's just me and my remote, but I'm so used to the big remote that I'm pausing it, and I'm zipping through commercials, and I can go back and 15 seconds and watch a play, or I can fast forward through halftime and everything else. I'm not as good. It can be done. I try it on. I screw up a lot, Prime, but I got a friend who said, "Oh no, the Prime's great. You can watch the recaps, and you just got to get familiar with it." Maybe he's right about that. The New Life declares that Michigan will be just fine. This is a good portal class. Yeah, that's okay. Anybody talking about Michigan's not going to be fine. It seems like a good portal class. I agree with that. People want more than fine. I don't know. Is fine going to have you competing for the playoffs? That's what we want to know. So Michigan will be just fine. Okay, so they're going to the playoffs? That's what we want to know. That's what they've got to do. I'll tell you right now, the portal, Michigan could be pulling in. They could have pulled the top 10 players out of the portal. People could be sitting around doing jumping jacks and having a party and everything. And if they don't make the playoffs, well, the portal was a bust. Or they could go through it like they are now. They got to make the playoffs for it to be a good season. And what they have put together so far, if Underwood is twice as good as he was last year, they're going to be in with a pretty good chance. A pretty good chance, however you think about a pretty good chance, and however people that like to spend the off season acting like everything's going to hell, a pretty good chance is a little bit better than 50% to me. Better than 50%. So can we get people to get some more feedback in here? NRS says that Haynes is damaged goods. Well, we don't know that. Yeah, he has another year, and we just don't know with that foot injury, what it's going to be like. So there it is. Not Ripstar saying that Jaden Sanders and Elijah Dotson will be missed. Well, we didn't see much of Dotson, a little bit. Sanders in a couple games in there look like the real deal. But you're starting to talk about true freshmen and defensive backs, local kid right down the road, teammate with Bryce Underwood. I thought he had a bright future at Michigan. So there you go. I already talked about Chase, the backup quarterbacks. One has a hell of a lot of experience. The one they got from Colorado State, and the other one was pretty highly rated, really highly rated, and then got hurt. So if he is back, I like the mix. I like the big time upset. The kid they got or upside, big time upside they got from the kid. They got from the kid from LSU, and I like the experience they got from the guy at Colorado State. If we were just sitting here talking, is it abstract? I don't know. If you said, what I would like to see with the quarterback position is they went out there and got a guy that has played a lot of football, a veteran presence, and just has that experience, and then they could go out and take a shot at somebody with a huge ceiling. But you don't really know about his floor. That's what they got. That's how could you not like that? Especially when you got Underwood. You could say, oh, I want somebody that could compete with Underwood. We've been down that road. Well, maybe these guys can, but if you're spending the kind of money on that type of player, that player is probably going to go somewhere else because it's likely he's going to lose out to Underwood. Whether you like, even if you had a billionaire giving a guy, whatever money they're going to give him, that guy, if you're going to get $2 million, I don't know, with a backup, are we even talking about $1 million? We're talking 500,000. If you were going to get a guy that was going to be a starter somewhere else to come in and say, hey, you can compete with Bryce Underwood, and here's $1 million, guy's going to say, no, I'll take the $1 million and go somewhere where I'm going to play. New Life's talking about IU and is talking about the budget for his team. I don't know. What about that 60 Minutes piece about your budget? So I don't know. The whole weird thing about the NIL, this is how much they're spending. This is what it's not like the NFL where we're looking at, or baseball, the pros, where we actually know what the numbers are, and we don't. We're going on what a booster has to say or some leak outs of what you want. Come on. I guess it's fun to talk about. But I don't know. I don't know who's spending what. I think you have an idea when you start looking at the transfer portal and you see who the top ranked players are going to. They're going to Texas Tech, who came out last year and said, yeah, we're spending a bunch of money and we're throwing around a bunch of money. And the Landman season 4 is going to be Texas Tech. And so you see them grabbing a lot. Texas A&M. You see those the money spenders, the NIL schools, the oil schools, the teams that are used to shelling out cash and have a lot of it, and the boosters. They're the ones that you're looking at right there. So there we are. There's Mar. It's good to see Mar. Give us some inside scoop before we talk to basketball. Going down and talking about Samaj again. Got the same 3 people here. Is that what we're doing? I don't know what they're talking about. So, here's old Hadley. Hadley says, hope you're taking a nap before tonight's game since you have a post-game recap afterwards. A late night for you. I can handle it. A nap doesn't sound bad. But what I really have, I've got a Christmas gift of some new coffee. And I ground up some of it today and took it for a spin. And I was excited about it all because it said medium bold. It's kind of like, that's what I like. A medium roast. Straight up. That's the way I'm drinking the coffee. And so I tried it today. And while I was brewing, I was looking more at the back. It was a Christmas present. and it says it talked about notes, and I don't like. I like just I like coffee, tasting coffee. Just I want it to taste like coffee. I don't know if I want notes. And it said dark chocolate. I forgot what the other two notes. So I was thinking, I'm not going to like this. I don't really like the flavored coffees, but it was pretty good. So I will grind one of those up, Hadley, at halftime, and that'll give me that'll push me into the 1 or 2 o'clock hour. And we all have to identify our strengths and weaknesses in life. And one of my strengths, and it's sometimes it's a weakness. I could drink a big old cup of coffee at 2 o'clock in the morning, and a half hour later, I can go to sleep. Not everybody can do that. Some people are like, well, you better not drink a cup of coffee at lunch or something. You'll be in trouble 10 hours later, 11 hours later. Not me. Once in a while it happens, but I've tried it enough where I can sleep. Now you say, well, that's pretty nice. The flip side of that, there could be a huge playoff game. I'm pretty good at falling asleep. It's a blessing and a curse. The curse part is that, like I said, it could be a huge game. If I was watching that game by myself and I thought, I'm sitting in this chair, feeling a little tired. If I laid down, it could be a playoff game. If I lay down on the couch, 7 o'clock at night, even a day baseball playoff game, lay down, and I can fall asleep. That's the curse. Now, don't lay down. That's the key. Don't lay down during the game. There are other things that I have found out that are both blessing and curses, but today's sleep, being able to sleep. It all, I knew way back we would go on Christmas and Easter. We would drive down when I was in grade school to Florida, to Arkansas, 20 plus hours, 12 hours down to Arkansas. Dennis, back seat. I'd sleep 90% of I'm out. Talk to you in Florida. I mean, might pop up there going through the drive-thru or something. Right back to sleep. That's a real blessing. You're traveling a lot. Boom, I'm out. It helped. Okay. With that, we go to basketball tonight. Rip talking about Alfred being Alfred's son. That is true. Or he's a nephew. Yeah, I believe that's correct. There's a lot of family connections where you get in there. You've got Pierce, you got Alfred, that's going on. Asking where they're going to get the depth at defensive tackle. Well, Leia is up in the air right now, so that will even make it more to your point. There's still time to get into the transfer portal. Just because it closes on Friday, you can continue to add after that. So, yeah, they'll be looking for interior defensive lineman overall, and linebackers still. They could add one right now. They could add one after the show, tomorrow, Friday, and then sometime next week. That could still happen. So what can really go on is that wherever if it's defensive tackle and if it's a linebacker, if those are the last two positions where you're going on Friday, they will be reaching out to agents left and right. They say, well, they're going to tamper. Well, they're going to be talking to agents before they're in the transfer portal, or those agents will be reaching out to Michigan. Maybe that's probably the best way to say it. if I'm a defensive tackle out there, or if I'm a linebacker and I'm looking to get paid, I'm looking to get pay or playing time. I'm calling Michigan before Friday at midnight. You know what I'm talking about? French better ball out. Maybe. What's going on here? Got some people talking amongst themselves. I get it. 24 recruits only produced Marshall. Well, on offense, is that what we're talking about? Garnero was in that class. So was Sprague. So was Hogan Hansen. He was hurt most of this year. Putting him out there something feels like a little bit of a reach. But Garnero and Sprague, those guys aren't reaches. Mason Curtis was that same year. That's not a he's I would say he's going to be a starter right now. Dom Nichols at the edge. Garnera, Sprague, Nichols, Curtis. I mean, there's 4. Hansen? Come on. What are you talking about? Look, I don't know. It's people just talking amongst themselves now. That's okay. Well, Michigan, they really were able to raid Utah. I noticed today that people were saying that over on the Maize and Blue Review, there was a question, how are the Utah football fans handling all of their players leaving, all their good players leaving, maybe BYU players too, and coaches, and heading to Ann Arbor? Well, that's not going to be well received. You remember how people felt about Harbaugh when he was leaving? Oh, yeah, okay, Harbaugh, you leave, and then you take all the good coaches with you. At least Harbaugh wasn't taking the players too, right? That was the point. And yeah, that's you know how much Michigan fans care about Utah fans caring that Michigan is rating their team for their best coaches and players. Michigan fans don't care at all. That's the way this works. Utah fans care a lot. Michigan fans don't care at all. And that's really, you'd use some cliches. It's going to be the way the cookie crumbles here. This is the way the system's set up. But really, Utah doesn't have anybody to blame except themselves. It was a little bit. What is even the word? I'll ask you folks. Give me the word for what happened to Whittingham and Utah. That it just got to the end of the line. He had 10 wins, and he decided that, well, I'm just going to go spend time with my grandchildren, and I'm going to handpick my successor. But did he feel a little bit like at 66 years old that it was just time? Was he being pushed out? I feel like pushed out is a little bit strong, but 21 years, people like to, and you like to freshen up after a while. Let's have the successor. And then Whittingham still had a nice, I don't know, what do you call it? Emeritus position there. He was going to get paid $1 million or $2 just to sit around and shake hands. Pretty nice job if you can get it. And then lo and behold, within 48 hours, the Michigan job opens up. He did not know, as he was either peculiar. I'll use the word if I was typing it up. I'd say it felt a little peculiar that here was some outgoing Whittingham, like, man, I'm just gonna go spend time with the grandchildren and shake some hands. I'm just gonna hang up my coach, and then boom, the Michigan job opens. No, I am in the portal. I'm back. Interesting 48 hours how that developed. Sam says Utah got old before Coach Whittingham. Nobody wants to use a peculiar. Maybe I should have picked another word, the one that I can pronounce. Here's Junk. Junko. What's up, Junko? He says, seems like the offense is set. Defense, not so much. Even with Etta back, we need front seven help. At what point do we panic? That's a good question. At what point do we panic? I would say Saturday morning, if they don't add a player or two in the front seven. I think you could put your hand over the panic button. But I'm to say, oh, let's let it play out another week to see if they can add someone, because you can still add. You just don't have the players going in there. There'll be some negotiations going on. So I would say if you want to feel a little uneasy, Saturday morning would be a good time. And then wait till the following Friday where you're like, wait a second, it's going to be Pierce and Etta and, I don't know, Bobby Kinka. I mean, so yeah, you're going to need some depth there. Or you're going to be thinking that this is going to be different than last year where it looked like, it was the defense, and then even though that really didn't materialize, but being stronger on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, it looks like the offense. So I would say a little bit Saturday and then waiting until the following Friday. That's how I'm looking at it. We just need some more 23-year-olds. I'll be all right with that. We signed a second long snapper. Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of what's going on with the long snapper, why they would get two, but let's go. Which position coach has the most pressure to step up in season one or get bounced? Oh, it's an interesting one. Who has the most pressure to get bounced? I'll answer that question and we'll talk some basketball. I do want to remind everyone that all of this going on, who's coming in, who's coming out, how it looks, how it's all playing out, it is all going on right now at the Maize and Blue Review, and you can jump in. Also, get a complimentary year of The Athletic, 50% off right now, the Ultimate Fan Bundle, Transfer Portal. What's going on in recruiting, football, basketball? You got these winter sports. It's rolling. Head to on3.com. You get the Maize and Blue Review. You get On3 plus Rivals. We'd love to see you over there. I would say one of the other big attractions there is that you've got like-minded Michigan fans all talking Michigan football and basketball all day, all night. It's nice. During games, you come hang out and you do that. Oh, yeah. Trey Burke. That is coming up. What is today? Today is the 14th. On the 23rd, so a week from this Friday, Michigan will host Ohio State, and they will take Trey Burke's number and put it up in the rafters. I've been in communication with Trey Burke's agent, trying to get him on this very show. I'm hoping that is going to happen. That is all ahead. All right. Answering the question, who has to have a very good first year as a position coach? Well, so we're taking out the coordinator. So now we're just looking at on offense. Detmer is immediately he's a young guy. He's in his 20s. His mustache is older than he is. Some of I don't. That's not the joke. So Detmer would be under. I think I don't know, say under pressure, but when the season hinges on Bryce Underwood making this gigantic step in year two, you're expecting it, you're hoping it, and I just saw a clip, and you've probably seen it as well. Last year's football staff is being painted as a clown show with good reason, but Chip Lindsey, who helped develop Drake May, doesn't get talked about. Like, oh, they didn't have a dedicated quarterback coach. I saw Urban Meyer like, what? They didn't have a dedicated quarterback coach? Well, they had the guy that developed Drake May, and then they had guys working with him every day. They just didn't have him as the quarterback coach that was out recruiting as well. Oh, you can say that's a mistake, whatever. But now they do have one. So if Underwood underperforms, and old Detmer, who is the dedicated, it is Detmer and back, but so I don't even have to go to the defensive side. I'll say Coy Detmer Jr., the answer is to your question. Who has the most pressure on them? Coy Detmer Jr. He's got a great mustache, but that's only going to take you so far. Mustache. No, when you have the facial hair like Coy Detmer Jr., it is a mustache. It's not a mustache. What I have, that's a mustache. Detmer, a mustache. Michigan is playing at 10:30 tonight. Reminder that if you are not staying up till tomorrow, you're on the West Coast, we'll see you. But we'll be on after the game tonight. Michigan, a 12.5-point favorite. The Michigan basketball postgame live show. We are on after every Michigan basketball game. Tonight is one of those where I know that there will be a lot of people that actually have to work in the morning and they're not going to stay up till 1 or 2 o'clock. Well, this is your chance on your way to work to hit the podcast, listen to it on the way to work. You could go to YouTube and you can play that through your car. You don't need to be looking at the video. You can just have that audio. Once in a while, maybe you're at a light, you look down. Hey, look at, they're screaming and yelling about the Michigan game. But it's all available for you on this very channel you're watching or listening to right now, Michigan and Washington. So there we go. That is what's going on. All right. That's it. Do we have a few left that we want to hit? Let's hit a couple last on the feedback. Sam says, after Bryce would come off the field, there never really wasn't anyone his ear offering support and constructive criticism. This was perplexing. Yeah, I don't know about that. He's on the phone afterwards. Yeah, I'm not sure. Where I sit in the press box at home games, they've got the awning over there, so you can't see him. So if you were on the other side and had your phone or your binoculars trained like Connor Stallions on the sideline, you could say, nobody's talking to Bryce. Why isn't anybody talking to him? What's he doing? He isn't even on the phone. What the hell's going on over there? I didn't see any of that. So I don't know. You could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that he had a underwhelming year with whatever he could have had 10 dedicated quarterback coaches and had the kind of season that he had, and it was underwhelming. So yeah, trying something different. The part about trying something different is they don't have any choice. They didn't have any choice after what happened, but switching up now offenses, offensive coordinators, quarterback coaches, that's not the greatest thing. So continuity is what but they don't have much of a choice on what's going on there. So that happened. John says even minor coaching will lead to Bryce improving. Well, he had made the biggest thing for Underwood is that he's going to be a year older. He may have been twice as good if let's just, I don't know, if Chip Lindsey stayed around and they kept the exact same formula where Lindsey was going to be the quarterback coach, and then they had their analysts in his ear and everything. You'd say, well, he developed Drake May. Everybody would be like, well, he developed Drake May. Look how good Drake May is. There wouldn't be like, oh, dedicated quarterback coach and all this other stuff. Michigan basketball is great. Yeah. JJ says, what is your overall grade for the staff and current roster projections, assuming we get who we want back, but not everything left that we need? Overall, with everything right now, I would give them a 7.5, 75 out of a 100. That means with a few players that could. It's nasty outside, according to my wife. It looks nasty. Hold on. Drive safe. Love you. So there it is. Yeah, I would put it at a 7.5. Yeah, the staff. I don't know. So the Utah Wolverines. Whittingham seems pretty solid. They go from a coach that had no experience to a guy that's got 20 plus years experience. So it makes you feel like, all right, this is exactly what they need. And maybe that's right. But 7.5, if they grab some star players that are still in there, that could bump up. And I feel like you're going to need to get an 8+ if you want to get into the playoffs. Then if some things fall off. So that's where I'm at. I don't know how anyone could have much of a higher grade than that, unless, of course, you're just somebody like, and I love Charles Woodson or Desmond Howard, but they would have to be, they would say, I love Michigan. Of course I love Michigan. I'm just going to wave the flag. So if you're just waving the flag around, you could say, oh yeah, Michigan's giving it a 9. Are you kidding me? These guys are great. But I'd say 7.5. Same the coaching staff and roster. So that's it. I was thinking about, I don't know what your grading scale is. I feel like it's a little bit higher than C. They're already working with Bryce. Well, I hope so. I hope they're already working with Bryce. I don't know what the rules are or anything else. Everything with Bryce, let's just take the other staff and, we'll throw them out the window. That's where, they're at. So you get the new staff. Yeah, everything. I would like him to go and work with one of the quarterback gurus. Go to California, go to see Carson Palmer, go see these guys that have worked with these, and here's the thing, they still have Tom Brady who's advising him. Tom Brady knows a thing or two about, what to do in the off season. Go get that done. That's what I would like to hear. Hey, Bryce Underwood is working with House, the quarterback guru. And then he's going to work with Carson Palmer. Those are the two things that I want to hear, or at least one of those. That's what Yeah, of course you better be working with him. You need him. Yes, I would. I wouldn't mind seeing the Moa brothers. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, it's not the weight room. If Bryce has another bumpy year, he's definitely out of here. Well, if it's a bumpy year, I would think so. JJ says he needs to take the self initiative. Look, he's got Team Underwood. When you talk about self initiative, he's got his parents. He's got a brain trust. He's got guys like Tom Brady. I don't think he asked, hey, Tom, what do you think of House and his quarterback development? What do you think of Palmer's camp? Oh, Brady worked with House, and it's about mechanics. So that's what it's about. Our footwork, these guys like Palmer and House, these guys work with quarterbacks, mechanics, and footwork. So if he doesn't do it, if we find out, hey, what did Bryce do? Oh, he was chilling, hanging out in Belleville, throwing, He's better be, I would think, or I'm going to feel like he has not done everything that he was supposed to do. In late, cut from a different cloth. Yeah, I'm not, when you're bringing up, I can't take what you guys, I don't know what other people are saying from, rival networks and rival shows and things like that. So those guys all have their ideas and who they talk with. I'll let you, I'll just keep that there. Those guys, if you like them, you like them, but I don't really need you to bring any of what they're saying here. Let them have their stuff. I don't know what they're bringing to the table. That is going to do it. I do know what I'm bringing to the table. That is the basketball show after tonight's game. We will see you then. We will see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. Now, until tonight after the game.